Good morning. So if you've seen the visual aids we sent out for today, you should have some pictures of sheep and shepherds. Now, one of my favourite TV shows is actually about a shepherdess in fact. It's called Our Yorkshire Farm, and it's about the Owen family who have a sheep farm in the Yorkshire moors. There's 9 children and lots of sheep. They're scattered over 2,000 acres of land. That's about 1,500 football fields, I think. Mum Amanda's quite glamorous and very capable, and she's a very good shepherdess. She drives to the sheep out on the hills to check on them. She takes food if the weather's bad, medicine and things if any have hurt themselves, and if any are missing, she'll drive around and look for them to make sure they're all right. Sometimes, even though she does all these things, still something might go wrong. Maybe a lamb won't make it, or a sheep gets hurt, because a human shepherd, even if they're very good, can't be everywhere or see everything the way God can. Because God is a good shepherd. Jesus says he's a good shepherd who looks after us. And today's true story isn't about literal 4-legged sheep looked after by shepherds, but it's about God's people, Israel, and their leaders who had not loved and cared for the people like a good shepherd would. God spoke to the prophet Ezekiel. He said that his people were like a flock, and Israel's leaders were like the shepherds God had placed over the flock, but they were bad leaders, bad shepherds. God said to Ezekiel in chapter 34, "Prophesy against the leaders of Israel who are like shepherds. Prophesy and say to them, this is what the Lord God says. How terrible it will be for the shepherds of Israel who feed only themselves. Why don't the shepherds feed the flock? You eat the milk curds and you clothe yourselves with the wool. You kill the fat sheep, but you do not feed the flock. You have not made the weak strong. You have not healed the sick or put bandages on those that were hurt. You have not brought back those who strayed away or searched for the lost. But you have ruled the sheep with cruel force. The sheep were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for every wild animal." These bad shepherds had neglected their sheep, God's people. They'd treated them badly. They'd not cared for them, or fed them, or looked after them. They'd let them get lost and scattered. God said he would remove those leaders and judge them for the bad things they'd done. Then God gave Ezekiel a message of hope for his sheep, for his people. He said, "I myself will search for my sheep and take care of them." He would gather his people, his sheep that were scattered, to himself. He would shepherd his people with love and justice. They would be fed. They would live safely. He would even judge the sheep that had mistreated other sheep. God is better than the best shepherd. Human shepherds can't be everywhere or see everything, but God can. Human leaders are not perfect. Sometimes they want to do well but get things wrong. Sometimes they're the bad leaders who don't care. But God is a good shepherd. Ezekiel told something more, that for those true sheep of Israel, God would send a deliverer, a good shepherd. Jesus said in John 10 verse 11, "I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep." This is how good a shepherd God is. Jesus gave up his life so we can be forgiven. He is a good shepherd who puts our needs first. He promises everything that we need and looks after us if we go our own way. God promised in Ezekiel 36 verses 26 to 27, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh, and I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws." This is a picture of the life we can have with Jesus when we trust him. because he is our good shepherd. In Psalm 23, King David wrote, "The Lord is my shepherd. I have everything I need. He lets me rest in green pastures. He leads me to calm water. He gives me new strength. He leads me on paths that are right for the good of his name. Even if I walk through a very dark valley, I will not be afraid because you're with me. Your rod and staff comfort me." Jesus is our good shepherd.